In 1828, pioneer John Pray had completed his construction of the Columbian House, a small trading post complete with tavern and overnight hotel. Located in Waterville, Ohio, along the banks of the Maumee River, the building itself was constructed of 14-inch, hand-hewn black walnut beams laid together with wooden pegs in true early American architectural style. Waterville, originally a small 50-lot village established by white settlers in 1817. After its construction, the Columbian House quickly became the centerpiece of this young village and was a popular stagecoach stopping post that catered to weary travelers trekking between Fort Wayne and Detroit. With the opening of the busy Erie and Miami canals in 1843, the building had served as a vital stop for people who desperately needed shelter to escape the extreme summer humidity and unforgiving Ohio winters. The Columbian House was an ideal location for a man like Pray to establish a business, especially since it was in the area of the village that would become the town square and the main social gathering place for the locals. In 1837, Pray added a third story that was used as the town's ballroom, and he converted the second story into a multi-use floor that held a single jail cell for prisoners in transit, as well as a dressmaker's shop, school, drugstore, and doctor's office. The first incident of unusual activity was recorded in the early 1840s. Legend has it that a traveling sheep herder checked into the Columbian House for a night's stay. The next morning, he had vanished without a trace, baffled at the mysterious disappearance, until 30 years later when a local farmer confessed on his deathbed to the senseless murder and abduction of the sheep herder. He described the location of the body in Waterville, and the remains were exhumed and mystery solved. Some say this might have been the beginning of the lingering ghostly spirits. A third story is that the jail room might be haunted by an old town drunk. Apparently, this local alcoholic would become so intoxicated and become so belligerent that he would be locked in the jail room overnight to sober up. Guests of the house would hear him pounding on the door on a nightly basis, demanding to see a doctor with claims he was ill. Almost every night was the same routine that quickly grew very annoying to the inn's paying customers that wanted quiet. One night in particular, his pounding was extremely loud and went on longer than normal. Clearly irritated by his crying wolf, the other guests ignored his cries and cursed his name. The next morning, he was found dead in the locked room with no explanation as to why. Since then, that particular jail room door will not remain closed no matter the attempt. If the black walnut door does manage to remain closed, fists are heard loudly banging against it from the inside. Some people describe being followed by something from room to room. One staff member of the Columbian House claimed that the ghost is like a cloud or a puff of smoke that usually hangs around in doorways and then disappears. He said that he has also felt the classic cold spots and has personally witnessed the furniture he had arranged suddenly out of position moments after him leaving the room. Time passed and this historic building was left alone, only to have the windows broken by vandals and the inside of the house exposed to the harsh Ohio winter elements. The walls were literally crumbling. It appeared as the ghosts had finally accomplished their goals and had driven the living away. It was not until 1943 that Ethel Arnold and her son George from Findlay, Ohio, bought it and once again saved it from the wrecking ball. They repaired the building and reopened the inn, spirits and all. Although Ethel herself never claimed to believe in the ghost stories that locals had passed down to her, her son and daughter-in-law, Jacqueline, testified otherwise. In the 1970s, George and Jacqueline Arnold acquired the building, converted it into a restaurant, and furnished it with period pieces to give the restaurant its authentic, original look. The Arnolds were very straightforward with the reporters that asked them about their experiences both working and living on the site. "We're haunted," Miss Arnold claimed in a 1980 interview. Both her and her husband, as well as staff members of the restaurant, have seen the presence, which they say had been spotted in the downstairs hallway or near the fireplace. She stated that most of the appearances of the ghost occur in this front waiting room, but pointed out that the ghost has plenty of room to move around. Over the years, the building has switched hands many times and has seen its share of changes. In the early 1900s, Waterville residents wanted the building destroyed because of the alleged evil that lurked within its walls. Maybe this lore is what prompted the Columbian House's most famous guest, Henry Ford, to throw his 1927 Halloween party there. Despite their attempts, every time the destruction of the Columbian House looked inevitable, a new owner was always found and new restorations were completed on top of old ones. Although there are still signs of early crude building tactics, such as loose wooden floorboards, that would be a modern architect's nightmare, The building has stood the test of time to have seen many bizarre events and have hosted thousands of visitors, some of whom might still be there.